Hello and welcome. This is the Hustle Over Everything podcast. I'm Alex.
And I'm your main man, Owen Osinde.
Man, today we have a treat for you. Today, like every day, we're celebrating the journey and we are giving you valuable tips, strategies, and tactics just to become a better entrepreneur and a better human. But today, man, I'm really excited for this pod for you. We have Spencer Badu. Spencer is a purebred creative entrepreneur. He's the owner and man behind Spencer Badu, a fashion line carrying high-end menswear and women's wear. Just like bomb designs, man. You should check it out. The fashion line is carried in some of the most prestigious stores, in the world, including SSENSE and the Bay. Owen, what do you think of the pod?
This was a great pod to record just because I was there from early on when I met Spencer it was one of those like, what do you call it? But it was like a show where a lot of businesses congregated on one space and they can show like their fashion businesses, what they're building. And this was the time when I was building Sneaker Deck. So Spencer around that time, like the brand had launched, but it was still in its very early stages. And just to see him now, to see how far he's gotten in his business, it's just remarkable. I love the way we really got to learn about who Spencer was, how he got into the business and the things he had to overcome to really get to where he's at.
Agreed.
And, just him honing his craft over the years. And he's been really focused on building his brand and really disrupting the fashion industry by making, aggressive, as he loves to call it, aggressive minimalism designs and clothes that blend in within genders. They defy gender norms. Men can wear it, women can wear it, and it still looks dope. So I love his eye for design and I love his passion for what he does. And this was definitely awesome just to like talk to him on the podcast and get to learn more about him and where he plans to take the brand from here. How about you?
Man, I 100% agree. I really like this podcast. A lot of our listeners are into working in the creative field.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he really breaks down the necessities that's needed, really goes into the journey he had to take, from selling sneakers to this flipping whatever you could, the mistakes he made. It was a really interesting pod. I'm really excited for you guys to hear this one. So yeah, I'm trying to think what else was really good. I really liked. Go ahead, Owen.
Hey, this and Spencer is an entertaining character. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's awesome listening to Spencer talk just because you can feel his passion. You can feel his enthusiasm for what he does, and he's very magnetic. So, how could you not love that, right? Mm-hmm. The guy does what he loves. He's doing well, and his energy is infectious, man. So I really enjoyed that part of him.
Most definitely. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. Let's get into the next segment, the business segment of the week.
Let's do it, bruh. What are your tips of the week, Al?
All right. So for this time, I want to go into the Google Chrome extensions that you could use to better your business. I want to keep it short and simple with these guys. These ones are super efficient for going on YouTube, Facebook, and its efficiency within your business. So right now I have about 10, I believe. And Owen, I know you committed some as well. So let's jump right in. All right. So number one is keywords everywhere. This one's a paid tool, but it's actually pretty effective. I've used it both when it was free and it was paid. This is for SEO research. It's a Chrome extension that you use to leverage SEO on Google to see what keywords are ranking. So if you type in anything with this keyword or with this plugin, on Google, on the right-hand side, you'll see a whole bunch of keywords that come up that compete with it, that are better, that are worse. So that way you can leverage that to have better targeting for whatever you're writing, posting, or just doing overall research. So keywords everywhere, great tool. Next is the Facebook Pixel Helper. This one is a big tool if you're advertising on Facebook. One, because it tells you if your pixel is installed correctly on your website. Big help. If you're advertising using Facebook, you need the Pixel Helper. If you're advertising on Instagram, you need the Pixel Helper. It shows you not only what is working on the page, but where it's firing. And then you can click on that to get more directions into what you should be using for your targeting. Listen, the Pixel Helper is a big gem. Moving forward, we have Screencastify. When you're working and trying to send information to a teammate, you can use Screencastify to record your screen and send it over to a teammate. So Screencastify is a big one. Next is TubeBuddy, and this is going to be combined with a vidIQ. vidIQ and TubeBuddy are great for YouTube. When you are on YouTube searching for content, on the right-hand side, similar to Keywords Everywhere, you'll see a summary of how many total views this video has, the comments, the SEO rankings, the social amplifications of that video, the channel, the best practices of that video, or best practice that you should have from using that video. So for instance, is your high-res thumbnail open? Is it shared on Twitter? Is your comment pinned? Is there a comment hearted? All those type of things. Also, the tags that's needed or the tags that's used in a video. So you can leverage that if you want to target that or look at a competitor and see what tags are being used. So vidIQ and Keywords Everywhere and Facebook Pixel and this last one, TubeBuddy, big ones. Moving forward, Grammarly. Honestly, I don't know where I'd be without Grammarly.
Major key right here, bro.
Grammarly, oh my God, saved my life a million times in emails. Listen, I know Grammarly is almost like common knowledge at this point, but if you don't have it, get your ass up and get some Grammarly, man.
Yo,
stop playing.
Honestly, it can really make or break a relationship, a deal, a reach out to a customer or a client. It can really turn someone off. I've heard stories. I remember one of my profs in uni was saying that, when he was doing venture capital, he'd get an email from a founder and it'd be a lot of grammatical errors, a lot of spelling mistakes. And if you're a founder and I'm like, you're looking for me to invest in you, you are what you are. You are who you are. And everything you do is pretty much how you do everything. So if you don't really take the time to really look at an email or piece of document you're sending to someone, it just really shows how sloppy you could be if you're not really cognizant to really check it out. So I definitely agree Grammarly is one of those things that can take you to the next level, and it can really cause a lot of heartbreak in your life because you're not going to get the things that you want, because it turns people off when they read something which is just poorly written and they don't want to respond to you just because they're so turned off.
Most definitely. Grammarly is life. It's like a necessity in this world to have something this spell check you moving forward. Oh, just to give a quick background, what Grammarly actually is. Grammarly is a spell check Google Chrome extension. So when you're typing, it'll give you grammatical corrections and spelling checks as you write. So it comes in very clutch when you're writing things, because spell check only works usually on Word documents, but when you're on Slack or an email or even on like Facebook or DMing, DM on your computer, not on your phone. But when you're writing to people, you're using Grammarly, and Grammarly comes in clutch every single time. So yeah, let's
take it in like this, man. Yeah. It's just like, if you don't have Grammarly, especially if we're living in a digital world and how everything is moving on right now, I think this is an essential. Like it's something because even if you know English the best, you still mess up some way somehow.
Yeah, most definitely. And the last one on mine before we get to yours, Owen, is LastPass. LastPass is great just because it keeps your passwords everywhere in one doc that you can just have to use, and layers on top of your key on Google. So anytime you type in a new password, it'll save to LastPass, which is great. But if you fuck up and get your actual LastPass password, then you can be in trouble. That's the only thing. But for passwords, LastPass is great. Now, on you had a few ones add on. Feel
Yeah,
free, man.
definitely. The two I had, this goes back to when I was doing drop shipping. A lot of the people who do drop shipping, they always want to find out what the winning products are. So a winning product is something that is a great product that solves a problem. It can either be a utility item, or sometimes it can fall between scarcity and utility. But you need a place to find where these hot products are, like what people think about them, who's bought the most products, which product has the most orders on a website like AliExpress. So you need data. You just can't really go off the whim and say, okay, this is a hot product. But I would say any product can be a hot product. It just depends how you market it. But if you're really just coming into the business and you want to know which product to sell, which one is getting the most traction, a website I use is called Thrive.co. So it's THIEV.co. Essentially, you just sign up for an account. There's many different categories such as electronics, homeware, many different categories that you can find items, kids' toys, games, or whatever it is. There's many different categories you can think about. You click on any of these categories, you see which product got the most orders on AliExpress, what people like, and you can just choose one of those products to test and see how your market is going to react. That way you actually know that this is a product that's solving a problem. And lastly, you know that it's failure proof in a way that if you market it the best way that you can, you are going to make some sales just because it is a tested product and there's people who are selling that product. So Thrive.co, if you're into e-commerce, you're thinking about setting up a store during this period, definitely check out this website to really get some inspiration and hunt for some items that you can sell up on your Shopify store or any other e-commerce website you're using. The second business tip of the week, which we're going to be talking about the different things you can use for yourself, is an app called Spocket for your Chrome extension. Have you ever had like those moments that, you know, you're drinking your morning coffee, you have all these different websites where you consume your news and you consume all your information and there's different articles you can read, but you don't really have time to really save all these tabs. So using Spocket, you can actually get the Chrome extension, and when you hover over the article, you can just click pocket it. So you can go to all your website, pocket all the articles you did not finish, and at the end of the day, you go to your Pocket profile and you can read all the articles that you had saved from earlier in the day and consume all of them in one place. So that's a really cool app that I love using, and it keeps me up to date with the things that I missed or the things that I did not have time to read when I close all my tabs. So definitely check out Thrive.co if you're starting a store, and Pocket, where you can save all your articles to read for later so you can be ahead of the game with the news. So those are my two, Chrome extensions I'm going to add to your list, Al.
Awesome. One that is like, I guess, honorable mention that we both discussed, but we're like, it's kind of not entrepreneurs, but it's definitely worth mentioning, is Honey.
Definitely.
Yeah, Honey is great for saving money while purchasing things, especially if you're Amazon king and queen, or king or queen. Pocket can help you save some coin by applying discounts at checkout. So if you're buying anything and continuously this online shopping, and we all are at this point, so Honey comes clutch. I would definitely suggest that as well. And we're not getting paid for none of this, so we're giving an honest opinion.
This is us using these things, and we're actually giving you our own honest feedback from what we've used, and we're just trying to help you, trying to give you this value.
Most definitely. If I was to can I shortlist these and say which ones are necessities, I'd just straight up say Facebook Pixel, TubeBuddy, and Grammarly are like absolute necessities. What about you?
Man, I love to read a lot of things. So Pocket for me, Facebook Pixel Helper was definitely clutch when you're doing drop shipping and you're really, tracking your ads. So I haven't really ran ads in the past 4 or 5 months, but that definitely helped. Grammarly, I definitely add that there. And TubeBuddy as well too. I'm learning more about that since you put me on, since we're putting a lot of our videos on YouTube.
Oh, TubeBuddy.
So it's a great way just to sneak peek and see how to set yourself up for success when you're venturing out onto YouTube.
Most definitely, yeah. TubeBuddy is clutch. I'm going to be using that as we upload more content into our YouTube channel. By the way, guys, we're going to be going hard on YouTube. So make sure to follow us or subscribe to us, and ring the bell, because that's very important as well. On our YouTube channel, Hustle Over Everything. Just type that in and it'll come right up. And subscribe to our channel. It's going to be great. We have a lot of clips coming up and a lot of interesting aspects of the podcast. So make sure to subscribe.
Yeah, definitely.
Now let's get into the hustle muscle, hustle nation.
Hustle.
Let's go.
Man, Hustle Nation. It's been 2 weeks since we've done a Hustle Nation, just because of everything that's been going on out here, with a lot of the protesting, a lot of the news, and just the whole climate of the universe. It just feels there's a lot of heaviness going on right now. And, this Hustle Nation, I'm not really going to talk about any business thing that we're going to talk about. Usually, it's motivational, but I just want to use this moment to really talk to everybody who is, going through a lot of trauma, and people who've been impacted by this. If you're, Black, seeing this isn't really easy. It's very hard on you. And a lot of people who are not Black, who want to learn how to help, want to know how to understand these historical things that have happened before that really play a part in today. I just really want to use this moment to really say, this is a moment to really educate yourself and to really understand how to go out there and fight injustice that we see today that impacts Black people and minorities of all groups. There's people who are in privileged positions who don't know they're in privileged positions, but what the positive thing this pandemic has done, and also the protesting, has woken a lot of people up. And a lot of people are saying, what do I do? How can I help? They reach out and they say, yo, sorry to go through that. How is it like going through that period, and they don't really understand how it's like to be in this position. So today's message is just to those people who are wondering, or need some context, or need to know how to help other people, especially minorities and Black people. Use this moment to educate yourself. Use this moment to understand, institutionalized racism that goes on in our workplaces. Understand how your privilege plays a lot into it. Understand the history that has gone on with peaceful protests, starting from Martin Luther King, and also touching upon Malcolm X, who was the opposite of Martin Luther King with the peaceful protesting. Educate yourself on that. Understand police brutality and how it's impacted Black people over the past, 60, 70 years. In modern day police brutality that you're actually seeing, and the rioting, so you can actually have some context to know what's going on. It's hard on Black people to really take that time to educate you again when they're going through the trauma. But, time to take some initiative and take that next step and ask yourself, okay, let me go out there and learn how to help Black people. What can I do? Which organizations can I donate to, and et cetera. So my ask is just take initiative. If one person takes initiative, just one moment of initiative to educate themselves for like half an hour, imagine if everyone did that. We'll be moving as a society where we'd have much, much more context into how people are feeling and how we can help them. So that is the Hustle Nation of the week. And that's how I feel today. Is just, I feel like everyone can take that moment to educate themselves and, get knowledge on how they can help other people.
Most definitely. That was an amazing one. Thank you.
Oh man, thank you, man. Thanks for for doing this with me as well, too, man. Just also let me give you some appreciation now, bro. Like now that we're here, man. Thanks for being a great partner and a great co-host as we co-host this together. And it's been great so far, bro. So just wanted to say that as well, man. I know it's random, but sometimes you gotta give people their flowers while they can still smell them, as Kanye used to say.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate that.
Appreciate
that.
Appreciate
that.
Gotta show the love.
I accept that. I receive that. Thank you.
Yeah, bro.
Thank you, man.
Facts.
All right. Let's get into the housekeeping items, shall we?
Let's do it.
Man, I'm going to the housekeeping items feeling good.
Positivity.
You know what I'm saying?
Word.
All right, y'all. So for our housekeeping items, you have a few ways to support the podcast for free. If you're on Apple, make sure you rate and write a review of the podcast. This makes a huge difference. If you're on Spotify, follow us. If you're on Google Play, hit subscribe and auto download. This makes a big difference when you get the pod and what we get as your podcast host. And honestly, guys, what makes a huge difference as well is sharing it. On Instagram, post us on your feed, because not on your feed, sorry, on your stories. How trifling of me to say on your feed. Can you imagine on your feed? Nah, listen, post us on your stories.
It ruins their aesthetic, man.
Yeah, exactly. It ruins the aesthetic. You can't do the feed. You can't ruin the aesthetic and ruin the hard work that you put forth on your feed, But tag us in your stories where we post you. And let's just keep sharing it, adding to the ecosystem of entrepreneurs in our community. Moving right along. On socials, on Twitter, we're at 24/7 Hustler. 24/7 Hustlers, with an S. On Instagram, when you're going to post us in your story, it's at 24/7 Hustler. On Facebook, it's Hustle Over Everything. And now onto the paid options. On our website, we have merch. We have some great merch. Right now, I'm rocking the Hustle Over Everything snapback in black. And Owen's rocking the Hustle Over Everything sweater in gray. How's it feel, Owen?
So toasty, bro. Right now I'm in my parents' house and I'm in the basement, so it's really chilly. Mm-hmm. So this Hustle and Flow crew neck is very good, toasty, gray fabric, has thick layering inside, so it keeps you warm and cozy. Mm-hmm. And it's perfect for the grind, bro. When you're in the grind, you need something that keeps you warm and everything. So definitely check out the Hustle and Flow crew neck on the website.
Most definitely. I also want to say, you're visiting your parents' house, living at the parents' house. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Let's clarify that for the folks. It's like, he's recording in his mom's basement. No.
No, man.
He's visiting home.
I came back,
you know what I'm saying?
To help moms out. It's summer now, it's quarantine. She's like, I come in, cut the grass. She needs me. She needs me, bro.
Yeah.
So
that's the good energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This for any haters that's about to poke their mouth out and talk some shit.
It's moving back to this mom's basement and shit, man.
Exactly.
Come on.
Nice.
It's a visit. It's a visit.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, visit the merch and check that out. It's a great way of supporting the podcast. Lastly is our donations for the paid options. Our Proud to Pay program is live. The link is in the description below. One thing we're working on that we want to tell you about is the email newsletter. It's called the 24/7 Hustle. It covers news, business, and music, all through the lens of entrepreneurship. I'm really excited about that. Should we give the announcement of the card?
The new project? Not yet.
Wait on it.
Wait on it.
All right, just wait on it.
But we'll tease it. We'll tease it though. We have a brand new product coming out, guys. It's really gonna help you. It's gonna help you save money. It's gonna give you perks and benefits to a lot of different businesses.
Yep.
SaaS products, lifestyle brands, hotels, traveling, flights. Right now things are kind of slowed down, but you're going to be flying soon. And, what we're really working on right now is going to be a game changer for your hustle, man. So really be on the lookout for that. We're really excited to be working on this thing. And, we want to push the envelope forward. We want to really build the hustle community and Uplift Media Group into a powerhouse. So we really got to be strategic. And this is one of our products that we believe you're going to love and get value from. And it's going to be a bonus to your life.
Most definitely. So stay tuned for that one. Stay tuned. But yeah, so that covers everything on the housekeeping announcements, housekeeping items. Anything else you want to mention?
Man, that's it, bro. That's it, man.
All right, so with that said, let's jump straight into the podcast.
Let's do it. Hello and welcome. And this is the Hustle Over Everything podcast. I'm your host, Owen Osinde.
I'm your host, Alexander.
And today,
I'm Spencer Badu.
Exactly. We got Spencer Badu. It's a special day today here at the pod. We got my good friend, Spencer Badu, in the building today to talk about building a fashion business. He is the founder and owner of the brand SP Badu. And we're really excited to talk to him about his brand and what he did to get here, and to also inspire other fashion designers and other people who are thinking about starting a brand, give them some tips and tricks of what they can do to really get his brand to the level it's at right now from starting it several years back. So Spence, man, welcome to the show, bro.
Welcome. One thing we rebranded recently to just Spencer Badu.
Oh.
It just for people that are like looking, I feel like if we just drop SP, they might look for that. Obviously they'll find it, but I don't want them to get confused. But
yeah,
definitely. Well, I was actually looking on your website, and I saw that there's Spencer Badu and SP Badu, right?
Yeah.
And from when I was looking at it, I'm like, oh, the price point was a little bit different. So, was it like a conscious effort that you made? It kind of like making like Ralph Lauren purple label and chaps type of thing, like.
So I'll give you like a little background. I started my brand like when I was in school, so
for sure.
To be honest, I was learning a lot. And obviously, I think the things that we put out when we're younger, obviously, is a reflection of where we are and who we are. Mm-hmm. And I went to school. I learned a lot of things. I grew, and my taste was different. Mm-hmm. So I got to a point where I had built up a brand and a following, but I also just didn't want to like completely, hit like a U-turn on them and kind of like be like, I'm doing something else. So it was a way of not only like rebranding to show the growth within the brand and the growth within myself. Initially what the plan was to do is to like have, I guess SP kind of fall in the background, just more of like I would say more of like a way to generate ideas, just more of a kind of like loose way for us to express ourselves. Mm-hmm. And Spencer would be the more like, the actual brand where all the main ideas would come out of. I think it's obviously confusing to some people because they're like, okay, like what is it? But ultimately it's all one brand. And we're going to try to do our best to just really put out great product. For me, it's not really about like high end and like diffusion. I think one is just kind of more structured and one's just kind of like more free and like loose in a way. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So one is more experimental, you can say, and one is just more like developed, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Like, talk to us like from your beginning, right? Like, I know you're in fashion, and how did like your story coming into fashion, where you're from, and how that like passion for really building products and designing started from?
Yeah, I don't even know where to start. It's kind of like it goes far back, but I think growing up, I was always creative and I always had this kind of like rebellious attitude. Nothing that I'm proud of, but when I was younger, I got into a lot of trouble. There was just kind of a lot of like misdirected energy. I didn't really know what to do. And I feel like just maybe due to like lack of certain figures in the household, I, at times became like a product of my environment. But at times, but not even at times, there was always one constant thing without my life, I would say, is there was a sense of creativity. So when I was younger, I used to draw a lot. So I started with just like action figures, anime characters, whether it was like Dragon Ball Z or like Pokemon, whatever it was. And then I think as obviously like a Black guy, grew up in the city, the people that you look up to, especially like people that have like financial freedom and the people that are kind of like on top, style is like a big thing. So as you grow up, whether it's through like music videos or movies or just like your environment, one big thing about like life is how you present yourself and how you look, right? So obviously, it's a very like materialistic approach to life, obviously, like in hindsight, but how you looked and how you dressed was like a big, thing. So getting fresh. So I think the first instance of fashion that crossed my mind, my friend's dad, his name was Curtis James. He's out in Brampton. I don't know if he still designs, but his son, like Laquan, was my friend out in Brampton, and he went to post-secondary school, learned fashion, and he started his own brand. So that was like the first time I was like, whoa, like this is a thing that could be done. For me, it was really important to have like role models or people that look like me or things that like were attainable, especially because of the fact that it was so like close to me. So yeah, he had a brand. He went to school. He opened his own store. He had people like, Cardinal and Chaclair and every single like Toronto rapper wearing his clothes. And that was kind of like the first time that it clicked to me that it was possible. And then, yeah, I started to like go downtown to Toronto. I'd go to stores like, Ransom and Goodfoot and Dream Design. And then I just started seeing like all these people that look like me that were putting out these like creative ideas. And I think that's kind of like when I made my mind that I wanted to be a fashion designer, because prior I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. It was just kind of like I said before, like misdirected, misguided energy, just kind of like all over the place. So yeah, I think, life happens. I was, just kind of, I would say just, living life, whether it was like doing good or bad things. And then eventually I just kind of got to a point where I focused my energy and I was really like, you know what, I'm going to do this. And then, yeah, the first step was I bought a sewing machine and then went to school, and then it just kind of, here we are now.
How old were you when you bought the sewing machine?
When I bought the sewing machine, I think I was maybe like 17 or 18.
Okay. So you made the decision of like, this is what I'm doing, and just stuck with it from 17.
Yeah. So it's funny because like when in a way, like, it's funny, like, I guess to give you some background, like my parents were divorced when I was younger. So I guess in the midst of like, it's not like I know my dad and it's like, we're cool and everything. But I feel like with the lack of his presence in the household, at times you kind of feel like you're the man of the house even when you're not a man. So
for sure,
in a way you were, I guess there's this like sensibility where you feel like you grow up, quicker than you were. So, in a way that was like a positive thing and a negative thing, because you start doing things that you have no reason doing and you're like a kid. And then, but there's also this like sense of maturity that comes with that, the sense of like awareness. So where like, my peers or like people I went to school with were like, watching like Harry Potter, or, I don't know, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Like that was
Star Wars.
I wasn't on that time. I was just like on something else. So, yeah, I was exactly.
You're outside. I was outside.
Put it that way. So we definitely. So so yeah, and then I would say, like, you just kind of get to a point where you're going in the wrong direction, and then you just kind of stop and you're like, yo, like, what do you really want to do? Like, what is life about? And I think looking at like the household, like both my parents are like, immigrants. So I'm like a first generation, like Ghanaian in Canada. I saw them struggle. I saw them like work and, work for other people and work in factories and work, in all these jobs. And the hustle portion, like me seeing my parents hustle kind of inspired me to hustle. to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm going to take the risk and do my own thing, even if it's like scary and even if it means, you know, the future will be tough at times. But I just knew ultimately I couldn't like work, you know, for someone for the rest of my life or work a 9 to 5 for the rest of my life. And not that there's something wrong with that, but I just knew who I was and knew my sensibilities and knew that, you know, eventually I would just get on someone's nerves and they'd be like, you know what, this isn't working.
You're out.
Yeah,
Out of
exactly.
here.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. So, all right. So you're 17 and you buy your first sewing machine. What were some of the
Yeah.
first pieces that you made?
17. I said maybe like 18. Yeah, 18
17,
probably.
18-ish. Yeah. You probably got to get it and then you have to start like, you know, like playing with it, trying to figure shit out, you know,
Exactly.
fucking up a whole bunch of clothes, you
Bro,
know.
you have it like on point. So I buy a sewing machine at like Walmart, and I used to go to like Fabricland, and Fabricland used to sell. They probably still do. They sell these like So basically, when you make clothing, it comes out of like a pattern.
Mhm.
They used to sell these like packs of patterns where you can like make, let's say, your own jeans or your own pajamas at home. So
Mhm.
then what I would do is I would get like, if I want to make like a sweater per se, I'd
Mhm.
find a pattern pack with like a similar style, and then I would like butcher it up, you know, and just try to like change the design of it because
Mhm.
I had like the base pattern, but I didn't have like the general knowledge of patterns, so I would literally be wasting fabric and just fucking shit up. But ultimately, I was learning, right?
Mhm.
Like ultimately, I
Yeah.
was learning about the process. And I think to this day, that's something that's like really exciting. It's that idea of kind of going into something, not knowing what's going to happen, but
Mhm.
ultimately through the like process, something beautiful comes out of it, you know?
Most definitely. And it sounds like for you, it was like a creative outlet as well. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So you actually got to like channel all that energy that was like coming at you from all over the world. And it's like, all right, let's focus it on that and kind of execute on that for the time being. Most
Yeah,
definitely,
and I
no?
feel like I feel like as a creative, as an entrepreneur, like at least for me, I've always been like optimistic. I've always been thinking about the future.
Mm.
And I hate to be like, we grew up tough, but like, you know, at times that was the case. So you're always thinking about the future. You know, as a kid, you're always just like, man, when I grow up, or man, when I get on. So, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you're like thinking about the future. So for me, putting that energy into like making things, you know, it was very like what's the word?
Gratifying.
Mhm.
Gratifying. Yeah, sorry. It was very gratifying because I would think of something, draw it, and then make it and it come to life. And it was just like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like
I
It's like
made that.
the power
I
of
made it,
seeing
you
your
Oh
know?
my
thought
God,
come a
I feel you.
reality,
I
man.
feel you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thoughts just come into reality. And until this day, it's something that is always exciting when you think of something, sketch it down, and sometimes it comes back the way you want it to, and sometimes it comes back completely like
All
different.
completely fucked up.
Yo, there's like
But
two feelings that exist. It's like the making of something and then seeing that thing you made, someone bought it, like your first sale of that
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
first product you make. It's
exactly.
like every entrepreneur's like dream. Even Al, like your first client ever must have
Mm-hmm.
been like, yo, I actually executed that. I got money from that. I just want to
Yeah.
10x that feeling.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Man, I've had that feeling from a minute, man. Because even like when my very first hustle, I would say when I was a kid, was like I used to like chop massages to my aunties and shit, and that was like
Wow,
the very first feeling, you know,
crazy.
I used to get like a little toonie for massaging my auntie's shoulders. Then that was like the first thing I got hooked on. Then after, I remember like I used to like flip sneakers, flip, and like every time I made that wop, it got that energy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, man. Continuing, getting back to the story though. So you start making clothes now, right? And you want to start selling it. Like, walk us through like what happened there. Like, that's got I think like the messy middle that every entrepreneur gets stuck in. You know?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Sorry.
saying? Oh, you didn't
So
catch that?
you kind of like broke out. What were you saying? I heard like the messy middle part.
Yeah. So I was saying, there's like a messy middle where you have your ideas now and you have like a start, a dope few designs, you know, but now it's like the point of, all right, I need to start selling this and start getting it on people, You know, like what was that process like for you when you start having those first few designs and you're trying to like sell it, get into stores, pop-ups? I know as I seen that you were like in Chinook Mall all on the west side. Like what was that situation like in your life?
Yeah, so it's funny, like I would say for everything that you've seen kind of like the brand do in terms of like, you know, stores and stockists and pop-ups,
Mm-hmm.
and like, you know, a lot of people that's helped me out or giving me a chance, and like to those people I'm like super grateful for. Like I can never forget the people that have like helped me out.
Mm-hmm.
But in the beginning, it was really just me using what I had and what my capabilities were. So the first thing I ever made was like a fitted with my name on it.
Mm-hmm.
But just the last name, it just said like Badu.
Badu, yeah.
Like
Like
a
the bold print, right?
yeah, in the
Yeah,
bold
big
print, and
ass
I had
like
like
that cut. Yeah, like almost like Tisa. Was Tisa an
exactly.
inspiration for that one?
Honestly, no, but it was like I think at the time like hats with like bold like
That
leather
was
stuff was like
yeah.
a thing. So I was just kind of taking my like I had it was like my kind of like spin on what was going on. I had like an opinion on the current kind of like, you know,
Snapback movement.
style going on. So I was
Yeah,
like,
like
oh, like this is my offering. So I had the hat that said like Badu, and it had like a fake like leather like brim.
mm-hmm.
And that was like the only thing at the time. I didn't really know how to sew. Like I knew how to sew, but I like I'm very like I'm a realist, and I knew that like my quality wasn't at the point where like someone would buy it and wear it and use it. So I just like keep building my craft, putting the photos out there to like build the brand and build the aesthetic, or just like show people what the vision is. The first like product that I made was like something very commercial, it was a hat. But that too was like very exciting because I had like a little side bag, and I'd be like, I remember I'd walk around the city with like 5 or like 10 hats in my bag. The goal was just to like sell them all before I went back home. So I think I was like living on like Western Road at the time, and I'd like be like, you know, whether I'd be in like Brampton or like, you know, downtown, I'd be bumping into people and they'd be like, yo, I saw that like your son those hats, blah blah blah, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I have them on me right now, and I just be like, you know, selling the hats like, and that was like for me that was like, you know, really exciting because I was like, whoa, like this is like actually a thing. And then we like website, and then we're like shipping like internationally, but then it's also like a hustle of like there's people that are interested, but then you're also like doing your part to push it out there. So I would people from like, I don't know, like the States or Asia, anyone that was like big on Instagram, and I'd just be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And like shout out to them because I didn't really have any like vision
Clout.
or there wasn't any like, yeah, not only clout, but like
Aesthetic,
any,
like
there wasn't a complete
the brand.
the complete brand. Got you. That's what you're saying. Got you.
So for a kid to be like, yo, can I send you a hat? And then it's just like, yeah, I guess, but like, you know, you don't really see the whole
picture.
Like, shout out to them. So yeah, that was kind of it. Like it's been a mixture of like just using my kind of like what I'm naturally used to, just like hitting the streets, kind of like, you know, like just using my environment and my neighborhood and kind of
What
like,
you got at the time,
and then, you know, now we use the internet and all that stuff. But I think, you know, as a hustler, things are going to progress in the world. But, you know, I think for people like us, like you said, you know, like you used to sell shoes. I used to sell shoes too. Like honestly, I used to sell fake J's, like, just to be honest, like, but I feel like there's,
yeah, I've sold a few.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yo, that's always the funniest thing. I remember one time, I told my boys like, yo, don't tell nobody, but they're fake. And his boy came up to me and was like, yo, are you selling those J's?
Yeah.
So I had to like finesse, so dropping them to his boy without like.
People used to sell fake beats too.
It's honestly
fake beats.
Like the only thing that I'd say with like fake J's, like you would have to sell the retros. Don't sell anything like recent or current.
Oh, definitely not.
Because like I remember one time, like it was like the first time, or like maybe not the first time, but I remember when like the Aqua 8s came out, and like they were like, you know, in the stores, like fire, everyone had them on their feet, and then we were selling J's, and then like we ordered the Aqua 8s like the colors were just like so off. Like
Yikes.
it didn't even look aqua. It looked like more like a murky, like, you know, like seaweed color. We're like, nah, bro. So at
No,
that
you
point, it's
can't.
just like,
No. You can't be selling the actual coveted ones. You know.
yeah, you have to go.
You have to be the middle ones.
Exactly.
Yeah, it can't be the ones that everyone wants. It has to be the ones that are like are just enough to pass. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Because those guys, they're like, all right, it's a J, it's cheap. All right,
Yeah.
cool. You know what I'm saying? But if you're selling like a $300 pair of like, let's say today would be like an off-white one, like they're not gonna, they're not going for that. It has to be real, you know?
You have to sell them some 10, some retro 10.
Exactly, some 10, some Spizikes.
Exactly.
You know saying? Like something like that where they're just like, all right, some light, you know?
Yeah,
those are the ones that flip like nothing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, bro.
So yeah, man.
You're conceptualizing the brand, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And this is like what times? Like 2008 times?
No, maybe this is like, when was that? Like 2014, 15, maybe?
Okay. All right.
Was that around the time we met at Ricardo's?
No, I think we met in like 2017.
That was 2017?
Yeah, like the first time I met you at like the inland.
Inland. Fashion Inland, yeah.
It was definitely like maybe 20, because I had just moved into the studio at 2017 or in 2017, and we were doing like a lot of like pop-up stuff. So I want to say it was like 2017, or 2018 maybe, for sure.
Okay. All right. So let's get back on track now.
Yeah.
All right. So you're downtown flipping hats. You know what I'm saying? When do you make the move from hats to actual clothing?
So I think by the time I started selling hats, I had started like school, so like fashion school, and I was like, so I was like learning how to make stuff.
Where'd you go?
So I went to school in Calgary. So I was in Calgary for a couple of years. My dad actually lives out there. So Calgary is like one of the places where I would say a lot of like things happen, like in terms of like momentum for the brand. I had left the city and I was outside of like my regular environment. And for anyone that's like been out west, it's totally different speeds. Like people are more like in Alberta, you can like, you know, raise your kids. It's very like chill, very like relaxed. There's obviously still like a youthful scene. There's still like a nightclub scene, but like in Ontario, just like Toronto in general, there's always something going on. There's always distractions. Like it's crazy. So yeah, just taking myself out of the environment that I knew so well was kind of like a shock for me. But in a way, I had this kind of like laser focus kind of like environment. So, but I would come back to the city every summer, like once, you know, school, like summers and Christmas. So yeah, I went to school in Calgary. And I think at the time, I'm not sure if I don't think I had the hats were out before I went to like fashion school.
Yeah.
So then when I went to school, I started like making things. But I really don't remember like what the first like product was after that. To be honest, like I'll have to look back, but I was definitely like making clothes, making pieces. Or I think the next thing I did was like a t-shirt. That was like maybe, and it had like it said like post gender future on the back, like just like in like big, and there was like a zipper on the side. So it's kind of like a lot of the like, it's funny because a lot of it was kind of like the basis of a lot of the things we do now. So it had like the hidden invisible zippers. It was a t-shirt. So you kind of get this like directional kind of like piece, something like a t-shirt, but you know, there's more to it. It's more like pants. And then we had like, you know, the like toweling, like embroidery on the back, this like post-gender future. And for me, it was just kind of more pushing this idea of like a genderless uniform. But obviously now it's more like subtle, but back then, like it was loud. Like we had Badu on the hat, we had the words on the back. So everything was just so like, everything was loud, where now a lot of things for me are more like subtle and hidden and less about like making like hidden statements or what so have you. But yeah, I would say after that hat, it was like a t-shirt. So if you think about it, it's very like practical things. And then I would say once I learned how to make clothes, it was kind of like a gift and a curse because I wasn't patient anymore. because I knew how to make things and I knew how the process was. So there was times where I got ahead of myself and I was like ordering fabric, from, these suppliers, thinking that I'm going to make stuff. But then ultimately I just like bought a bunch of fabric and,
Just made it
worked on these
happen.
patterns. And I'm just sitting on it. So,
That's tough.
but yeah, after that was just kind of like a constant build, like from product to product. And we were still making like collections to like show the overall direction of the brand, but we weren't really like selling the pieces because at the time it was just like it wasn't feasible to be sewing like one piece at a time. Like for anyone that knows product, like it's just kind of like it's easier to produce it in mass than to like sew like one jacket. You better sew like it's easier to sew 10 or 20 than to sell one.
Yeah,
So
man. I remember starting a fashion brand. Like, I don't remember. I told you I started a fashion brand before, and I was trying to make like I remember when athleisure was coming out with the tapered sweatpants. I remember
okay,
getting fabric in Brampton, and then coming back and trying to get like pattern making is like tough, and
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and that's why I want to talk to you because a lot of your stuff is cut and sew, right? So
yeah.
building a cut and sew brand, how do you like? We really want to get into like the nitty gritty of like you building your brand and you getting to become like SB Badu and now Spencer Badu. So
Yeah.
talk about like
Yeah.
that whole cut and sew process and really manufacturing so many pieces. And how do you know the demand of your brand? And because you're starting out with the t-shirts and the hats, and then you move into this, as you mentioned before, like the aggressive minimalism at the time. How do you really elevate to that
Yeah.
level and getting your cut and sew patterns out and also out to market?
Yeah, I think for me, like, I think at a young age, I realized that like when I don't come from money, so I would need to build the skills in order to sustain like a certain amount of time. So obviously now I can like hire people, but it was really important for me to learn how to sew, how to pattern draft, and what so have you. So I think the first step was just like learning the skills. So either learning it yourself or, hiring someone or finding someone that could, do those things. So ultimately where someone like maybe like you, when you started, you'd like look for someone to make the pattern or you try to figure out yourself. I had the skills and I had like I was a little bit confident in certain areas. So I would just do things and I just make things. In terms of like production kind of comes after the fact, like, and that's kind of one thing I realized, obviously as time went on, you kind of start with the design and the design is kind of more of like a proposition. You're showing people like, yo, it's kind of like a car show or like, what's so
Idea.
exactly an idea. This is what's going on. This is what I made. Let me know what
Yeah.
you think. Let me know what you're into. And off of those, ideas, you kind of figure out what people gravitate to. And then like after that, you make like the smart thing to do is like wait on the data and then make it. But at the time when I first started, it was like direct to consumer and there wasn't really like a feedback loop with like what people wanted. So a lot of it was just like gut instinct. So at times, you're on the money and everything's good, but then at times you make things and you're just sitting on it because you thought it was going to be, a hit, but it's not. So you might order like 100 T-shirts or 50 this or, 50 that, and then you just sit on it. But funny enough, my friend in real estate told me he's like everything will sell. It just like it's a matter of the price. So obviously anyone that has inventory, if you're sitting on it, it's just a matter of just kind of trying to get rid of it. So yeah, in terms of like that's kind of like the process on how it goes. For me personally, like I said, with me, there's always people in the background. There's always people that's like, responsible for like the ascension of the brand. So a really good friend of mine, Justin, J Big Inc. He has like a factory, and he was like someone that I met when I was like, starting my career. And he's like, same thing. He's like a black guy. He owned a factory, and we related to each other. And he was like a designer as well when he was younger, super talented, just like really well known. Like when it comes to like the craft of things, like certain people are good at certain things, and he's just like really good with like craft and like, the details. So yeah, we kind of like formed a relationship, and then for our big production, like anything over like 20, and sometimes over 10, he would just like, you know, be able to produce it for us. So that's kind of like how we would be able to like fulfill orders for, you know, the Bay or Essence or, you know, what so have you. Because there was like, you know, those other people on the background, or in the background, sorry, like making the pieces for us. And that also,
manufacturing it for the mass.
pardon?
Like mass manufacturing it, you know, so it could actually have enough pieces to get sold out in a bigger retailer.
And then it also just gives us time to focus on like what, you know, what we want to focus on. It helps us like focus on developing the brand. Where, you know, I've done like production runs by myself where I'm like cutting like for hours and sewing, you know, for hours. Even if it's just like 10 or 20 pieces, it's very tedious. It takes up a lot of your time. Where obviously you're saving money. But sometimes one thing about being an entrepreneur, sometimes when you think you're saving money, you're not, because that's just going to come right back if it's not good. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, sometimes you're better off just like paying the professionals to do it. And that's kind of like another thing I've learned along the years. Like, yo, I know like money's tight. And even though you have like the general knowledge, like just leave it up to the pros, because long term you're investing into yourself, you're investing into your business, and long term that's going to come back around. Like if quality's bad, if fit's bad, yeah, you got that sale, but ultimately you lost someone. You know, it's like you only have like one time for a first impression, you know? So it's like the worst thing to do is try to like convince people to fuck with you after
a bad first impression.
Yeah, a bad first impression. So
most definitely. All right. Dang, I don't want to miss over like a good portion of value that you kind of had to experience, where you like built the brand up and started getting it on Rihanna and ASAP Rocky before, and that was before, correct me if I'm wrong, it got into Essence and the Bay and all the
So I think, I don't know if we haven't had Rihanna, but I've definitely sent her some stuff. So shout out to Rihanna.
How do you get Rihanna's contact? How'd that work?
So honestly, I realized that like the biggest thing with celebrities, it's either like a stylist. Usually if they're like a really big celebrity, it's really about like a stylist. The stylist is the one that's kind of working with the celebrity on a daily basis. Some stylists are more involved. Like some stylists will like literally pick the outfit for you, or not pick it, but they'll like create the look for the client. They'll give head to toe look. They'll be like, okay, this is what I'm thinking, blah, blah, blah. And if the artist trusts the stylist, it's a go. Some other stylists, they work with the client as well, but it's less dressy. They'll give the client options. They'll be like, okay, you know, like I got the new blah, blah, blah. It's in your closet, you know, and then the artist will just throw it on themselves. But as a stylist, it's really about filtering things through and trying to get like, things that kind of, you know, represent or make your client look the best. So as a stylist, you're always looking for new designers, you're always looking for new brands, because that also means that everyone else isn't wearing it. So if I'm a stylist, I'm not gonna, obviously everyone's gonna wear like the bigger brands, but if you can get like a younger designer, a kid that hasn't really been like exposed to the world yet, not only are you helping out that younger designer and helping him like develop his brand and helping him get exposure, but you're also kind of creating this kind of like exclusivity with your client, where it's like, hey, I found this like younger designer from like Austria or Toronto, and you know, it's really sick, but no one's really on it. And then that's how a lot of things happen. So
got you. So the kind of key that you kind of found when you were young was that the stylist is the plug for getting the celebrity look. So you just like got into touch with other stylists, and it was the same thing for ASAP Rocky, or did you have like
so funny enough, like with him, I met his stylist. I bumped into a stylist in LA, and then we just kind of like built a relationship, and like the rest was just kind of like history. Like for us, it was like a general relationship. Like, you know, I have his number, we text, we're cool. Obviously for others, it's like more transactional. It's just like, hey, you know, we're looking for blah, blah, blah for a client. What options do you have? So there's been a lot of like that, where it's like, hey, we're shooting a music video for like the Migos. Can you send like pictures of what you have? And then we send it up,
Yeah.
and go from there. But it's a bit of like, with everything, I feel like it's a bit of people coming to you, and then you're also like pursuing and doing your, your part of just kind of like getting things. Like you can't really just sit around. So yeah, but I would say it's mainly like the stylist. But sometimes if the stylist is too like, busy or or very popular, there's always just like the right hand or someone that like works closely with the artist. It really depends on like who you're trying to get and what you're trying to get from the artist. But ultimately, I find if it's not the stylist, it can get tricky because
there's always like it could be a messy middle to find that one person.
Like, someone. There's been times where like I've sent someone something for like an artist, but then I'll see the clothes on stage, but it's not on the artist; it's on someone else.
I hear you.
It's a little freebie, man.
Yeah.
It's like my early days, and then like you'll have times where like, but I think it really comes down to like you kind of like putting your foot down and kind of like establishing that like what you're doing is valuable, because ultimately people are always going to try to take advantage of you. And people are always going to want like a freebie. They're always going to kind of want something. And obviously you kind of have to bring value to the artist. And, you can't just like be asking people for things all the time. Like you have to bring value. But ultimately we all know in every crew, there's always like, the kind of like benefit just from like association. So you do have times where someone will be like, yo, like, I'm going to be on tour with this person. Or I'm going to be like here and there, like send me this and I'll make sure they get it. But then, that's not always the case. Like sometimes they're just like rocking it themselves.
Most definitely. So now, sorry, Owen, you had a question? Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna ask him about the aesthetic of his like his brand, like turning into like a unisex brand earlier on.
Yeah.
What went into that, like making that decision to make it like a unisex, because this is like a big part of like your brand.
Yeah. So it's funny. Like I feel like I said in the beginning, I've always had this like rebellious attitude, just like with life. And I feel like as I've grown, I've channeled that into like creativity opposed to just kind of being like, a troublemaker. But long story short, at the time, a lot of things were it was like menswear or women's wear. There wasn't really like an in-between. Like fashion for menswear were like guys were wearing like suits and, they're like in Italy with like, their nice like leather shoes and ties and, whatever. And then the woman had like dresses and like, it was just very super masculine or super feminine. But then one thing that like never really made sense to me is like when like fashion shows started to become a thing, there would be like these like, let's say it's like, I don't know, an actor or athlete or whoever, like a guy, and he'd be at like a women's show and he would just be like sitting there and he'd just be like looking at a bunch of like clothes that don't really pertain to him. He would, you know what I mean? Like there wasn't really anything that like he could leave with. Obviously, like if he wants to wear like, a dress, there's nothing wrong with that. If he wants to wear, one of the skinny jeans or one of the bags, and obviously there's like, that's less of a thing now. Like people wear things from like the women's runway and girls wear things from the men's wear runway. It's like, it's not really a thing. But at the time, it didn't really make sense. So I think I was just like, wouldn't it be cool to like have a show at least where there's like men and women, and if there's like shows like, guys and girls can take something away from it. And like, even if you're like a relationship or a couple, you guys can like, be like, oh, that's like fly. Like I'm gonna you can get the match. And like, it's just kind of like, for me, it was just like, it just made sense. It was practical. And I think at the time, maybe like only one like unisex designer that I had like heard of. But obviously I feel like as time went on, the whole like unisex thing started to become like a thing. And like, everything in the industry was like unisex, non-binary, non-gender, blah, blah, blah. But obviously like we're in a world where things are like very like trend driven and trend based. So
most definitely
after a while that kind of like went, and we just kind of stuck to it.
Got you. So now one thing that really stuck out to me from the jump from when I discovered your brand was that it was very clear that you established yourself as a luxury brand. So what steps did you take to solidify yourself as a luxury brand versus, I guess you could say streetwear or another term that's
a premium brand or
you
whatever.
know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Like it's funny because I personally have never like, I don't really box myself into like, luxury, where, obviously we're not like a streetwear brand, but, I think for me, it was ultimately about not compromising on the vision and what we wanted to do. I think it would be easy at times to, and I think, it's funny because a lot of the struggles I've went through running a business or owning a brand is just me being stubborn and not just doing like the easy or the practical things. So when I can just make like a bunch of t-shirts and put like my logo on it, or like, just make like a bunch of hats, I was like pushing and trying to make like, bomber jackets and jeans and cargo pants and just kind of like, staple pieces. And I feel like by me not compromising on the vision and showing the world that I saw in my head, and, in a way, I guess by the time it gets to the people, they're just like, whoa, like this is luxury, or this is like elevated, or this is advanced or contemporary. It's not like streetwear. And I feel like, no knock on streetwear, because like obviously I grew up on that. It's a big part of my life to this day. But I feel like with streetwear, it's not really about like compromising, but it's just really about this kind of like really real, unpretentious approach to fashion. It's like, yo, like, this is what we do. We skateboard, or we blah, blah, blah. And we wear t-shirts and chinos, and that's what you get, right? For me, it's always been like, in a way, it's always been like this kind of like, it's always been like an idea, a concept, So in a way, I'm always like proposing the future. I'm always proposing like something that doesn't exist. So in a way, like it can't be normal. It can't be just like a t-shirt. It has to be more than that. So I think, yeah, to answer your question, like, I feel like that was just a result of me not compromising on my vision and not kind of giving into what not only was easy, but what the norm was,
Most definitely. Was there any brands that inspired you?
Yeah, so it's funny. Like, I feel like creatively, when I first started, I was like, I'm not going to look at anyone, because like I just didn't want to come off and look like anyone else, because I feel like as a designer, you can easily get compared to someone, and then it's just like, not really it's over, but it's just like, in a way it is over, because it's like you just come off as like a copycat. So, yeah, but I feel like just due to my love and kind of like, in a way, I'm like a nerd. So I studied all the greats. So from the Balenciagas to the Pradas, to the Diors, to the Rafts, to the the Ricks, to Oswald Boateng, like to
shout out Oswald.
like it's like literally any fashion person that I came across, Ralph Lauren, you name it. Like I literally studied and did like the homework, because and like watch the interviews, because for me, before fashion school, that was like my only my only insight and education into the fashion industry.
Most definitely. Did you check out sorry to cut you off. Did you check out the Oswald Boateng documentary?
Yeah, so it's funny. As soon as that came out, I feel like, I don't know what year that was, but I bought it. Like,
you bought it? Damn.
Yeah, like I bought it or rented it on like Apple, and it gave insight into like his life and his career.
Yeah,
and I'm Ghanaian too, so I was just like,
hits home,
Yeah, exactly. So I saw it and I was just like, whoa, like this is like an actual. He built something from nothing, and I see a lot of similarities. It's just like, big black African guy. Have that energy, kind of come with something new. But yeah, the people that inspired me, I'd say, like ultimately people like, Prada. So like Miuccia Prada, people like Rick Owens, and people like Oswald. But ultimately for me, the thing that I admire the most and inspires me from all those people is their cultural impact and the way they kind of like built their business and how they've been able to like sustain their business. Like for me, it's always been about longevity. I try to think very like long term in all aspects of my life. And I've always admired that like those people not only do their own thing, and they lead the industry, but they've been able to like sustain to this, to this day. So for me, yeah, those are people that inspire me.
Most definitely. So,
Yeah.
sorry, Owen, do you have a question too?
No. I was waiting for you to.
All right.
No, you go ahead, bro.
So, did you have a like? I'm thinking to invest in that first production line. Like, could you tell us like how that went for you? Like, did you have an investor? Like, did you have to like scrape up money? How'd that go for you?
No investors at all. It's funny. Like, when I was growing up, my older brother told me, he's like, look, he's like, your mom doesn't have money and your dad doesn't have money. So whatever you do with your life, just make sure you make the right decisions. So in a way, going into fashion and going into entrepreneurship was like the last thing that, someone like me maybe would think they should be doing or would have done, because like the odds were stacked up against me. But for me, it was like really a step at a time, and just really like maybe walking places or not eating lunch, in the beginning, just kind of like really saving money. So for instance, like my first production run for my hats, I think were like maybe a little bit over like $500.
Okay.
Or like, 500 or like 600, 500 or whatever. But it was like in that price range.
And how many pieces were those?
I think it was maybe like either like 50 or 100 hats, like around there.
That's actually a steal.
Yeah, well, I don't quote me on it, but I think it was like around like $5 a hat. That's like before like customs and all that stuff. It's for the most part, it's like pretty cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but yeah, that's business. And then you add your markup and your profit margins and all that stuff. But yeah, it was like a gradual process, and just kind of like going from there. So, going, flipping, taking that money, invest into other things. And I've always worked a job. I've always kind of like, had to deal with reality, as I chase my dreams. So I've always kind of like had a job, and, because in a way it alleviates the pressure onto the brand, and it's allowed the brand to grow at like a more of a natural rate.
Organic. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of, maybe prevented me from doing, like things that are like desperate and needy just to make money. Because I have, a job, and I have like a kind of like a main source of income, but ultimately the sacrifice comes from like me and my personal life. So, maybe where some of like my peers would maybe at my age just be like, chilling, got the nice, like, got the nice whip, they're living comfortable, but not really comfortable. They have a lot more of like material things to show for it, and they're a lot more like comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like ultimately like funneling majority of my earnings back into my career, because that's what I deem as important, and that's what I feel like is going to ultimately lead to my success and happiness and longevity, opposed to the immediate gratification of, maybe the new J's or, the new car, or have you, the new watch.
Yeah.
But that's being a hustler. That's being an entrepreneur. You look, I'm not going to say I look dusty, but sometimes you need to look dusty. You need to like
not to sacrifice a little bit.
Your room and sacrifice, yeah. But it's for the great. Yeah.
So Spence, like building a fashion brand is tough, right? Like, it takes a lot of money to produce a lot of products, especially like in the cut and sew lane. How do you go about like, investing the money that you're making? Because it's like the unit economics is like, okay, to get these much pieces out, I need to invest this money in. So how much, like, were you making enough money? Were you spending all your money to really invest in all your production or did you have a deal with your production, or your manufacturer to say, hey, we might not have the full money to pay you up front, but let's sell and give you as we go. Just coming from like the fashion background, like I've seen how expensive it is to really produce, and then also make sure you don't have excess inventory.
Yeah. So like in the beginning, I think because we were doing like direct to consumer, like we had like the soft goods, like the hats and the t-shirts, but then we also like, I think the first kind of production things we did by ourselves, we did a bomber jacket and we did a pair of jeans. I think for both, maybe we did like 20 pieces of each. but everything came out of like our pockets. So in a way, you're only producing 2 styles, so you're not looking at like too much money, but ultimately like you're still looking in the thousands, and that's a lot of money for anybody, especially like for a young entrepreneur. And you're banking on that, $2,000 or $4,000 to turn into, triple, double, or, what so have you. So, but in terms of like deals and grace periods, like I feel like we've all been through that. Like, as an entrepreneur, there's always like, for instance, like someone like Justin, like we would like make the clothes, or we would like buy the fabric, get the pattern, he would make it, and then he would give us like an invoice after the clothes are made. And that definitely pressure, opposed to like you give him like the stuff and he's like, okay, like
pay up front.
Yeah, pay up front. So but most factories don't, like, you don't pay up front with most factories that I know of, but I'm pretty sure with some you probably do. Like the bigger the risk, they're probably like not just gonna start your 50,000 order.
They want like a prepayment first.
Yeah, deposit.
And then after deposit, yeah.
But for us, it was like easier that way. Especially for me, if I like start production in, let's say production takes like a month or 2 months. If I start production in, January or December, by February or March, I'll have enough money to pay, because I know, like, you usually know like the production costs per item. So you kind of have an idea of what you're going to be billed. So let's say like your jersey, someone's going to charge like $20 to sew it, and you're doing 20, like you can just do the math, obviously. So I know by the time production's over, I'm going to have a bill of, what so have you. So it's kind of like a balance, but there's definitely been like tough times where like people are like, yo, where's my money? And it's like, like give me like a week or so. Like with the fashion business, things like money's always in movement. Like it's like you get the order, you place the order, you get the deposit, you get you buy the fabric or whatever. The pieces are made, you ship it to the stores pay you, the rest of the money that they owe you. That can take forever. Like sometimes you have to chase stores. Sometimes like stores pay you right on time. Sometimes like you're literally like, yo, like, does this guy think I'm, like an idiot? Like, bro, like, where's my money? So there's those, you obviously can't like, you can't have that energy. Like you can't go back into like hood mode and be like, yo, fam, like, where the fuck? But you have to like, be professional. You have to keep it professional, but also like be assertive and let people know that like it is a business and they can't, play with you or take
you like that. Yeah.
So is there specific terms that you lay out for retailers to make sure that you get your money on time? Like I know from like I have a bit of a fashion background. I'm into fashion arts, and then I know when it comes to buying.
You did everything, eh? Fashion, like advertising, bro.
So it's funny. Like there are terms. So you have like the net 30s. So we once worked like a big store, and the terms were like net 30, and I was like, at first I was against it, but it was like a big opportunity, and I was like, bro, like I can't pass this up, like So
what's net 30?
So net 30 is basically you get paid 30 days after you complete the order.
So I ship my product to you, and they have 30 business days, not 30 days regular, 30 business days, which is like 2 months more so, because like 30 days times 5. I mean, it works out to about 2 months.
Yeah.
All right. And then there's like before the net 30 is like percentage off. Like what's the works there?
With percentage and discounts, that's like all. It's really based on like the retailers, based on the order that the store makes. They'll ask you for, a discount if it's like a big order. So if a store is spending like 100,000 with you, they're gonna be like, yo, like, fam, let me get a 5% off. You know what I mean? And you're obviously gonna do it because if you think about it, they know that the cost of production is gonna go down just due to the amount of orders. Like with everything, the more you make, the less it costs. So, if someone's doing like a $250,000 or $100,000 order, they can ask for a discount because they know you're ultimately not gonna pay the same production price that you were if they ordered 20 pieces. You know what I mean? So But yeah, long story short, yeah, so there's like net 30. And like in that case, we had like net 30 order. And I was like, man, this is scary, but it's a big opportunity. Don't want to pass it up. And we took the order, and I used my money and I made the pieces. I mean, I made the pattern and
Patterns,
I
okay. So,
fabric, and then we produced it and you sent it to the store, and then it was like like honestly it was a chasing game. And that's kind of like one of the things I'm not a fan of in the industry, but I feel like every industry kind of goes through that, where I'm pretty sure freelancers deal with that too, where your a client's like taking long to pay you. So the risks are higher when you're a fashion brand and you have to pay rent for your studio. You have like, I don't know, insurance or what so have you, or you're working on your next collection. In a way, the money that you could be delegating to other portions of your business is basically sitting still in inventory that's been shipped but you haven't been paid. So there's that. And then there's like basically like the whole like deposit system. So a store will put a certain percentage down, and then you start the production, and then once you deliver, you get the rest once you deliver. So with that too, if you take long, they can either ask for a discount. They can even cancel the order. Like, God forbid, we haven't had like people cancel orders, but if you take, I don't know, 30 days past the window when you're supposed to ship or deliver, a store can be like, fam, like, we can't take
too long.
Because as you have to understand, like, they have a certain amount of time that they have to sell the clothes. If you deliver like a week or a month before everything goes on sale, it's like, what's the point, right? So for anyone that wants to go to retail, if you're like a younger brand, it's better to ship earlier because you have more time on the floor to sell, more time for people to get acquainted with the brand, and ultimately just more time to just like sell the product. Yeah.
All right, so I don't want to skip over this part because this is like some like nitty gritty, real valuable pieces. So when it comes to those terms, right, what do you negotiate to try and get it more advantageous for yourself? Like, what are some things that people could take all right, so I don't want to get the net 30. What can I opt for? What can I negotiate to get that better deal? Maybe like net 5 or something like that.
I would say like for me, like, I'm not really a fan of like the net 30s. Obviously, the thing with being a smaller business or like, an emerging designer, in a way, you're at the mercy of the stores. You're coming to them, even if it's obviously different if you're like a big brand and you're like some wonder kid and everyone's like wants to be a part of or wants to sell your brand. You can really call the shots. But in the beginning, when you're approaching these stores, they're kind of like at an advantage because you're coming to them and you want to be sold in their stores. So in a way, they call the shots, right?
Do you get consignment deals, Spencer?
I'm not really a fan of consignment, so I haven't really done consignment. Like, I think like I've probably only done consignment once, but it was with things that were already produced. So in a way, it was like low risk for me and the store. But I'm not a fan of just like producing things for consignment. In a way, I want to work with people that are committed in the brand and that are, that believe in the brand. I understand consignment for a store that's, small and doesn't have a big enough budget and they want to test out a product. But I feel like if you wait for, what's really yours and not kind of, jump on every opportunity, you'll figure out that, things that are meant for you will happen. And the things that aren't will just fall to the wayside. So yeah, in terms of consignment, I don't really do it because in a way, you're not committed. And I don't feel like you believe, like, I feel like once a store invests money into the product, therefore they believe in the product and they're going to push the product because their money's in there. So even if it's just to sell and get their money, ultimately I feel like they're going to push the brand and push the product. So yeah, consignment's not really my thing, I would say, but it definitely works for other people. It's a risk that you take, right? Like,
got it. Yeah.
I just think about, I'm like, I make all this stuff. In a perfect world, it sells, and if it doesn't sell, it's like, come get your box, you know? So it's just like,
For sure.
yeah.
So speaking of that, like if it doesn't sell, right? One thing I see like a lot of like uh, winner type of
Yeah.
sellers, that take products that haven't sold. Like for instance, winners in TJ Maxx will kind of step up into the designer route. Would you ever take like a deal like that where you're giving some of the product that haven't sold to like a winners or a guilds or off the rack retailer? Not off the rack. I think I
I know,
forget the specific
I know.
term.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think for me, like that's a reflection of like overproduction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'll ever, not to say I'll ever, but I don't think at the moment we have that pleasure to produce a bunch of stuff with the hopes of it selling. Like for us, our production runs are still really small, especially for like the cut and sew. For the soft goods, obviously we make a lot, but for the jackets and the pants and the what so have you, it's really small. So for us, not only is it like a sustainable approach, but it's also a way to not only waste, like we're not wasting time, we're not wasting fabric, and we're not wasting our money, we're not wasting our energy. So for me, I'd rather have things sell out than to have things go on sale. But obviously that's in a perfect world. But for me, that's what I would rather
That's the
have.
goal.
That's the goal, opposed to producing, a bunch of, I don't know, jackets with hopes of selling them all, and then with the rest we just kind of like it goes to, I don't know, like winners or what so have you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but I feel like in a way it's just a reflection of this kind of overproduction that's not necessary. It's like I think a lot of companies could survive with a smaller production like minimum, but we're in North America, and more is better, right? So more.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have like a suggested retail price that you give to retailers to sell your products? And has there been a retailer who's sold your product more than like the actual retail price that you want to price at?
No. So for us, like we have, when we go to market, like let's say when I go to Paris, we'll have our product, we'll have our line sheet, and basically we'll show the store what they're getting the product for. Or like what they're able to buy it at. So there's a wholesale price and then there's a retail price. And usually in between there's like a markup of like, whatever times whatever, I don't know, times 3. And ultimately the store, it's really up to the store to decide if that works for them. So they need to figure out if, by the time I pay for shipping and it lands at the store, will this times 2 make sense for me? So I think that's kind of like where they might negotiate and be like, hey, we really want to buy into this, but like the margins don't really work in our favor. Could you do this or could you do that? And that's another reason why people ask for discounts, is because sometimes the margins aren't in the store's favor. For you, as a brand, once you sell the product, like in a way you're kind of good, but you also want to make sure that the store is also benefiting from selling the product. You don't want them to be losing money or just kind of like making, just a little bit. So yeah, there's not really a case where we say like this is the retail price and there's kind of like they change it or there's like really discrepancy. All of that happens before they buy the product. It's really about them kind of like going back to their offices with their teams and really crunching numbers and figuring out, does this make sense for us to sell? If we buy this jersey for $80, is it going to make sense to sell it for, $100? Definitely not. So that's kind of like when you come back and you have negotiations and all that stuff. But for the most part, I feel like a lot of designers, especially designers that do retail, they're very conscious of that. So they kind of do things that work in the store's favor. So they'll give the stores higher markups because one, it gives an easy point for the stores to buy into the product. So one, if you can buy into the brand at a lower cost, most of the times you'll buy more. But then also if you sell it, you're making a lot more money. So, but yeah, that's kind of like the thing with like retail versus like direct to consumer. You can do that for yourself, obviously, but with direct to consumer, sometimes the markup is not as high because there's not that pressure that comes from like the retail system. Like if I sell something on my website, I can be like, I can mark it up like just maybe, 2 points or 3 points, where with a store, it's going to get marked up so high to the point where, you make something and the price is, crazy. But I think that's kind of like, that really comes down to like internally, like you need to figure out what your price range is and try to stick to that and keep that product kind of like at a certain price range. I feel like most brands that are successful are really good at controlling their price of the product.
Most definitely. Which one do you usually prefer? Do you prefer like working with retailers, or if you could, do you like stick direct to consumer? Like, how do you find that line, like that relationship? And if you were to give advice to an up and coming designer, which route would you say?
Yeah, it's funny because like when I started, like being like a rebel, I was like, fuck stores. I'm not going to any stores. Like I'm gonna sell it myself.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do pop-ups. I'm gonna do online stores, and like, but then you realize that you're in a way you're alienating yourself, and you're kind of like you're boxing yourself in for no reason. So that was like my energy when I first started. So it'd be funny, like I'd be in school and they'd be talking about like buyers and presentations and stuff, and I was like, I'll tune out because I was like, man, I'm not gonna like show my collection. I was just
Excel spreadsheets.
Exactly.
And shit.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna sell to buyers. Like I'm gonna sell direct to consumer. Like present food. Like, but then yeah, I think ultimately we wanted to sell directly, but we also wanted to be a global brand. So it was really about getting the brand out into the world and in front of the people and making it easier for the customer. Like when we first started, we were, not only shipping to, Canada, but we were shipping to the States and Asia and Australia and like London. And I was like, whoa, like this is amazing. But you get to a point where like, it'd be easier if that person could just go to their local store and buy it, It just makes it easier for them to purchase the clothes, try it on. And that's kind of like another thing with online. Until you establish your brand quality and your brand fit, it's really hard for people to buy into a brand. Like you're not just going to buy a pair of skinny jeans from a new brand you heard of in London. Like you want to make sure it fits well, right? So I think initially we started with like very aspirational, like direct to consumer vibes. And we realized that like you can do both, and that ultimately it's kind of like it's really about doing both really well. So like having the retail side of things to speak for you on an international level and kind of use those people as like distribution partners, but then also have like a direct vision and product kind of like category for your customers to buy into the brand.
Most definitely. All right, getting off of business for a quick second, but we'll get back into it in a moment. One thing I see that always stood out to me and that I always loved is that there's a lot of melanin in the you know what I'm saying? In
the photos,
the
man.
Photos and the imagery.
It's raw and authentic.
100%. So let's talk about that. Was that intentional or was that more of like an organic thing?
Yeah, I think for me, it was more organic. Obviously, like in a way, I feel like there's always just like, I hate to always say, but there's just like rebellious attitude within me where I'm just not a fan of doing what everyone else is doing. And I feel like, obviously, when I started my brand, everything was very just like, Caucasian and white. And for me, it was just like, my clothes are inspired by my peers and real people and the people around me. And I want that to be represented within the casting of the clothes. Cause it's not like, for me, we're selling, like I said, a uniform. We're not really selling this like perfect idea of like a person, or like this perfect idea of like this like perfect girl, or like cookie cutter, like perfect girl, perfect guy. It's more of like an idea of really focusing on the clothes. So in a way, we want the models to reflect that that idea. So it was just kind of more about, you know, having like a realistic, authentic approach when it comes to casting. So people aren't intimidated by, you know, who the model is or what the model looks like, but it's more relatable and inspiring because they're like, yo, like there's sensibilities of that person that I have, or they look like me, or they're also a DJ, or they're also like an artist. But I think it's just really about this kind of like really authentic, like realistic approach to casting, like trying to build this like perfect world.
All right, one thing I want to touch on real quick. I feel like I would be doing a disservice to some of the audience, if I didn't touch on was there was a lookbook that you dropped. I think it was styled by Bobby Bowen. Shout out to Bobby Bowen and
shout out to Bobby.
You know what I'm saying? And the styling of it had this one girl that was wearing like a sleeve. I don't want to like misprint like, quote.
Like gloves, like kind of like like the
gloves, like a long sleeve. That went into a glove. Then like her whole chest was out, right? And it was a beautiful, beautiful image. You know, quality melanin. Like talk to me. Was that a decision? Because when that dropped, it definitely felt like it was a statement that was supposed to be made, you know. So I just wanted to ask if that was a statement that was supposed to be made, or is this like organic and it's like, oh no, let's just shoot it, let's just be free, you know. I'm very curious about that because that really stood out to me. It stood out. Also, she had natural hair as well, you know. So I was like, this is refreshing to see, you know. So I'd love to get some insight there.
I don't know. It's funny because like, when you do these things, you don't like, there's not this like conscious like idea or intention to like, you know, do these things. It's more of like a natural approach. And, you know, shout out to Bobby, you know, for always kind of being like my creative counterpart that's like, yo, like, let's try this, let's do this. Like, little story, when we did that, like he was actually scared because he thought we were going to kind of get like because we shot it in Parkdale, like outside in the middle of the summer. And Bobby was like, he was afraid that we get like a public indecency ticket or something. So he was like Neva was on the street taking the shot. And as soon as like she got the shot, he was just like, you know, would cover up the model. But yeah, in a way, I feel like there's this, it's an idea of like, when I look back at it, I feel like it was an idea of freedom and not really kind of, because I think with us shooting it outside, you really saw the contrast with like the way people conform and the way people kind of like shrink themselves when they're outside. And then for us kind of like, I guess juxtaposing that with the clothes we made and the way that people looked and obviously the nudity, it was this kind of like sense of freedom and, you know, being yourself and kind of like, you know, loving and knowing who you are. But yeah, it wasn't like a conscious decision, I would say, to like, you know, put the nudity out there and like kind of be like, you know, this is the statement we're making. But I think in hindsight, it was just, I guess, really about, in a way, it was about freedom. But it wasn't something that, we intentionally put out there. But yeah, that was a really fun shoot.
Most definitely.
What are some keys that, like, you know, you started the brand like really like a couple of years back, and what do you think some of the keys that, what are some things that you've done that has really made people gravitate towards your brand and really grew your brand so fast like the way it did, and it being featured on a lot of people, being in stores? Like your rise is like no other, like any other fashion brand of other people who start fashion brands. So what do you think are the things that really went into that making that happen?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because like for me, I guess I'm just like tirelessly working, and I don't, obviously we hit these like certain like checkpoints or kind of like accomplishments within the brand. But I guess outside looking in, it does look like or feel like it's happened like, you know, very quickly, or it's, you know, but, you know, for me, in a way, I'm never satisfied, and I know there's a lot more work to do. And sometimes I don't even feel like, you know, we've made it. And in a way, I don't think you ever make it. It's just really about, you know, growing and constantly like pushing yourself. And in a way, every kind of accomplishment and challenge that you reach, it's just really preparing you for the next chapter of your life.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the way I see things. In a way, I love what I do, and I don't like. It's funny, people say like start with the end in mind, but for me, I don't really. There's no end in mind for me for fashion. Like I would want to make clothes and create until I can't no more. So yeah, I don't know if you ever really make it, but I feel like we'll definitely get to a point where things are a lot more stable and the brand's a lot more established. But yeah, sorry, what was your question? I feel like I just
it's just like a lot of people really gravitated towards like your aesthetic and your design and your brand. Like if you think of other fashion brands, they never really rise like the way you rose towards like success. So what is it about your brand, your marketing, just your overall,
I think
the brand that made people like love it the way they love it right now?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like in a way, and maybe this is like just me and maybe you guys can relate, but I feel like people relate to things that are different and things that they can like relate to. So I think for me, I like to think I'm offering something different. But there's also this kind of like relatability and this kind of like unpretentious attitude that, we have with the brand. In contrast with like a traditional fashion brand where it's like, luxury, we're better than you, like blah, blah, blah. Like the only way you can buy into this brand is if you like buy our perfume, like stuff like that. And in a way, I feel like people just, in a way it's like my name's on the label, but it's not about me. It's like, if anything for me, it's about like, it's more of a responsibility for me. Also like, yo, these are my clothes and like, I'm special. And like it's less of like the
narcissism. It's not less narcissism.
It's not like Sean John, It's like for me, it's more of a like it's more about like responsibility. So in a way, I feel like the personal aspect also like helps with it because I think when someone buys into my product, in a way they're buying into me, and I feel like over the years, and just like with quarantine and reflecting, it's made me realize that sometimes people aren't really buying into like the pieces or the clothes. Ultimately, they're buying into me and they believe in me. And that's kind of like their way of saying, I believe in you. So yeah, in a way, as much as I work on the brand, I'm constantly working on myself. And like I said before, like this is not something I would do in the past. I used to be very like laid back, low key, just like work. But I see the value in telling my story. I see the value in communicating and kind of giving history for the brand and kind of giving more people insight on the journey. And for me, that's kind of like things that I connect to. Like there's been times where I met fashion designers and just based on the energy that they gave me and, the gems and the conversations we had, I was not only inspired, but when I was in the store and I saw this stuff, like I bought it just because of like that interaction that I had with them. So I think it's a mix of like personal brand and then like the, conceptual brand, if you want to say that. Yeah.
It's good. Solid.
Speaking of quarantine, how's COVID affected the business?
I think like every business, well, not every business, but for most businesses, it's kind of like been like it's been like a standstill. So a lot of things have been like forced to come to a halt. In a way, like for me, I'm very like, I like to think I'm positive. I'm very optimistic. I'm looking at this all as like a blessing. I started the brand in 2015 when I was in college, like my first year. And I started the business way before I had any, skills or knowledge to start a business. So in a way, it's been this like constant, grind and constant like pursuit to reach these certain levels. So this is kind of like the first time where I've been able to like stop without feeling guilty about it. Because from 2015, I've always had a deadline. So it's constant deadlines. So in a way, everything's come to a stop, but we're using this time to plan and to really figure out what the future looks like, not only for us, but for, our clients, and really trying to like offer something that's, meaningful and more authentic to us. I feel like in the beginning of my fashion career, it was really about trying to play to like the industry standards and what was considered cool in the standard in the industry. But as time goes on, I see the value in doing things that work for me and that's, you know, resonates with me and resonates with my audience. So that's kind of like really what we're trying to do, is like really focus on ourselves and tell our own story. And ultimately, like, that will get us the attention that we want. Where in the beginning, I was like, you know, I was trying to get on the big publication. I was trying to get on the big celebrity.
And you did it.
And I did it. But I don't know. It's different in a way because, like, for me, ultimately, being an entrepreneur or creating a business was about freedom and was about, you know, playing on my own terms. And at times, that's not the case. You succumb to the industry and you succumb to beg boss. And then you kind of become like a cog. Use a word like enslaved, but you become like enslaved within your own system that you created yourself.
I got you, because you're a part of a machine,
exactly.
You know, that serves something.
Part of a machine now,
so now you become a cog, you know, where you're serving purpose to somebody else instead of you being at the top, you know, being able to control everything. You know, it's there's a big misconception a lot of us have, is that once we become entrepreneurs, we'll be completely autonomous and there's anything.
It's like a musician. Like some people think as soon as I get signed, like I'm good, but then
you're on.
As soon as you get signed, now you have, you know, contractual agreements. You're not an art, like you are an artist, but now you're also, you know, like your intellectual property is now belongs to another entity, and just like do things that you want to now. Like things have to go through, you know, a channel of, you know, blah blah blah. So
layers.
In a way, there's a blessing in becoming, like, there's blessings. As well as there's curses with becoming like part of a system. But I think ultimately, like, my goal is to not be part of a system. If anything, create our own systems without kind of like I don't know, like purposely like rebelling against like the machine. You know, like we don't want to be like at, you know, heads with the machine. It's, you know, working in tandem or doing our own thing while things are going on. To conclude, like, COVID or quarantine, we kind of refocused our energy into like making masks. So in the beginning of last month, we put out like masks, and then it was like for every sale we matched it with a donation to two of the local hospitals in the city, Humber River and Michael Guerin. And that's kind of like how we've been spending the past like 2 months, to be honest. I've been sewing all the masks myself. So it's a lot of work. But I love the creative process. I love working. Like, I love, you know, like, it's just,
you love the grind, man.
I love the grind. Exactly. So like, you know, I wake up at like 6 o'clock, but that's like normally for me, you know? So, and then I come to the studio, and like, usually I don't leave around like sometimes 10 or 11, but it's like, it's just like like, honestly, anyone that knows me knows I'm a workaholic, and sometimes it's like to a fault. So I've learned to like step back a bit, because ultimately, like, you want a life as well, right? Like you can't just be like working forever. You wanna be able to invest in other people and have meaningful relationships. So that means if you're like, you know, going to a party or going to a friend's birthday party, or even like going on a date, or just like taking time to like text someone, you know, whether it's like, you know, I don't know, platonic or not, just being like, hey, what's up? I was thinking about you, blah, blah, blah. But for me, I'm a workaholic, and, you know, I'm still working on that, like that side of life, like finding the balance.
Yeah, it's definitely tough.
But yeah, I don't know. Like for me, I'm not like my peers. Like I don't have the
luxury of turning off. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I would say like I don't have the pleasure of just like wasting time. So a lot of the people that are in my life, I'd say like they're
like on the same path or something like that.
Yeah, same path, or they're just like I would say all of my relationships are people that I know, besides like obviously the acquaintances and people that obviously know me now just due to what I do. a lot of it's like meaningful, like relationships. Like I'm not really into just like, you know, casual, like random, like
chilling.
yeah, I don't really do that. Like I'm always thinking of just like
Doing like productive. I think it's every entrepreneur who has that, man. It's like even I can be hanging out with a buddy or whatever, and I know it's like a time frame I have there, like to chilling.
like, bro.
But for example, like I can hang out with Alex, and I know like we'll be casually chilling, but I know there's productive thoughts that we're talking about. Meaning, it's like this is actually not wasted time, or
Yeah, you guys are having a meeting. That's totally different. Like I have like one of my really good friends, like Kazim. Like we have conversations all the time. And sometimes he'll be working, sometimes I'll be working, sometimes we're not working. But it's always good to have like someone that you can bounce ideas off of and talk to. Like, you know, like, you know, we're in a generation where a lot of things are like based on ego and a lot of things are very like impulsive. So, you know, I'm just like chill here. I'm just like hit up this girl. I'm just like do whatever and kind of, you know, get this like instant gratification. Like I accomplished something because like, you know, I met this baddie on Instagram and like I hit her up, blah, blah, blah. But then ultimately you're just like wasting time. So a lot of the times like you don't really, in a way, like as an entrepreneur, all that stuff is just like filtered out. You don't really have that like those like in a way pleasures, but I don't think it's like a bad thing. Like for me, it really helped me with like vetting like things that are necessary in my life. When you're focused, like laser focused on stuff. So
most definitely. One thing to quickly touch on that you said like you're struggling with, and I've struggled with as well, is like that turning off thing and balancing between personal and business. One thing that I've recently started doing, and this is for the audience as well, is that I've started like adding like I used to basically have checkpoints of things I needed to do, you know, in terms of business.
I might charge my phone's about my computer. All
right, grab that. Well, I'll keep going in the meantime. I think I might have told you about it. Was that I would have check boxes for the business. You know, I need to get that, I need to get that, I need to get this done. But I started like pivoting a bit and saying, all right, I need to get this done in business, but I just need to get this done in life. I need to just call my mom. I need to just check on my cousins. You know, ask how my girl's doing, XYZ and XYZ. And that's had like a major impact on my life. Just like having a little checkbox, even though it's still a little bit forced, but it helps, you know, having checkboxes that are personal. So you're not actually disregarding your personal life, you know? So for the audience members, like I definitely suggest trying just to have some checkboxes that are personal to you, that you want to fulfill, you know, that doesn't give you any money, but gives you that personal gratification of, hey, I called my mom today and I know she's doing better or doing, you know, and because a lot of times you can get so caught up in our business and it's like engulfing, like, I don't know if that's the word, but like you get swarmed in it, you know, that you can like you can refuse to pull your head up and just like look around. You know, so having that checkbox of saying, hey, all right, let me do these 3 things, of talking to this person I care about, really can make an impact in your life. So that's one thing I just wanted to add.
Totally agree. And that's definitely something I'm gonna take on and do myself, because there's been times where I've avoided like things that I just need to do in my personal life, whether it's like, you know, I remember when I first moved back to the city, things like just like getting IDs and certain things like that. Like I was just like, even care, like just working all the time. Like calling your mom, calling your dad, really putting time into relationships, you know, and things that are kind of that are going to give back in a way. As an entrepreneur, you see, in a way, it's a blessing and a curse, because you see the results of your hard work. You know what I mean? Where with relationships or other things like that, like sometimes you don't really, like you can put in all the work into, you know, and it's also like a tricky one when it's like family, because sometimes, you know, people follow with their family members, but let's say it's like a relationship, you can put in, I don't know, a couple years into a relationship and be dating someone, and then it goes to shit and you're just like, whoa, like,
what I get out of it? If I put that
Exactly. But I've also tried to like change my perspective. Like I don't really like date much. Like I would admit that I'm a workaholic and I haven't really like put in the time and energy when I have to into relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel like it's, for me, it's more about like working on myself to get to like certain points. Like for me, like growing up, um, and you guys maybe relate as like a black guy, like vulnerability was kind of like deemed as like a weak thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So for me, I've had to learn to like let go of just kind of like that idea of like not trusting people or not showing love, and just kind of like letting go and being yourself. Like if like you can't really protect yourself. If you get hurt, you get hurt. If you don't, you don't. But I think just kind of like switching from the idea of like possessing and more about like experiencing. So, you know, you can put 2 hours, or not 2 hours, sorry, you can put 2 years into a relationship.
2 hours into a relationship. That's okay. I could be a good relationship. Don't
exactly. Exactly. But you can put 2 years into a relationship, but I think ultimately it's less about, you know, this kind of like idea of like you were mine or she was mine or he was mine. It's more about like the experience you had with that person. Because I feel like ultimately, admit it or not, you grew or you figured out things about yourself, you know, when you're in that relationship. So, you know, ultimately it's about those experiences. And I think for me, what I realized is that like throughout the years, a lot of my experiences have just been like business related. So I've been able to travel the world and I've been able to like accomplish all these things. But, you know, ultimately you kind of have this like, and I don't know if it's probably just Corona, because I've been stuck inside and just been like reflecting, but I'm just like, you need to like live more, you need to experience more, you need to like actually get out there and do things and just let go and not be so like in your head. That's like off topic, but I feel like it's part of the hustle.
Most definitely part of the hustle. Your mindset is 100% part of the hustle.
100%.
And one thing, like, we got to commend you, man. You've been able to get into some of the most prestigious retailers in the world. You know, have you actually gotten a chance to sit down and just like take that in?
Yeah, like I think there's times where I like really reflect, and I think times like this, like where the world is just like still, obviously it's unfortunate what's going on in the world, but I feel like that's kind of like the positive is coming out of this. Like we all are just stopping and thinking about, you know, the things that we've accomplished or, you know, done in the past 2 or 3 years, 5 years. And yeah, you know, it's funny because like these are things that I thought about and these are things that like I wish for. I remember being like a student and going to like SSENSE.com and being like, bro, like, and I saw it in my head. I saw that I would be there one day. Like it's, you know, it's weird. And I get goosebumps talking about it now, but it's because like I saw these things happen. I was just like, man, like I'm gonna get there one day. Like, you know, and then you get there and it's like surreal. But for me, I get to this point where I'm like, it happens. And then I like, the celebration doesn't last long, you know. It's just kind of like
it feels like it's a status quo at that time, right? It's like, oh yeah, like, you know what it is? It's like you dreamt about it so much, you visualize it so clearly, it's so precisely that it manifests itself, but you've already been living in that moment for such a long time.
Exactly.
It's like it's not like, oh my God, I did it. It's just like, I expected this to happen. It's just like, okay, what's next?
No, yeah, it's definitely like it's definitely like an amazing feeling, I would say. But yeah, I think because as an entrepreneur, as just a visionary, whatever you want to call it, you're always thinking about the next thing. So in a way, I feel like it's good to stop and, you know, appreciate what's going on and the accomplishments you've made. But I would admit that at times when these things happen, I'm like, whoa, that was amazing, but what's next, you know? Because in a way, like I'm not gonna like stop and, you know.
Yeah, because then you become complacent.
But it's amazing though. Like for me, I bask in it for like maybe an hour or two. Like I'll just really like take it in and be like, whoa, like that happened. Just be really like grateful, be really happy that these things happen. And then it's just like, you know, on like what's next. Where I feel like maybe with other people, it just becomes like their it becomes like their life. Like, hey, I'm at, this store. Like, I'm with, like, this person wore my clothes. And that becomes like the only narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Where for me, like, that's not the validation. Like, the validation ultimately, it's like doing these things and setting out to do these things and accomplishing them. Whether simple things like making a collection or just like being able to, pay my bills on time. Like, for me, that's more validating because it's like you did it and you're still going, opposed to, the what the public deems as like the I don't know what the word is. I've been talking too much.
One thing I just want to make sure we cover is the fact that you've been in such like prominent retailers. Was there a specific thing that you think contributed to getting there that you can share with the audience?
Yeah, I don't know. With retailers, it's a weird one. Like my approach was kind of like the generic approach. It was going to fashion weeks. So with fashion weeks, some call it like market week, but basically with fashion shows, when you see fashion shows, there's two main people that are at the shows besides celebrities. So there's editors and there's buyers. So the editors are from your Vogues and your GQs and what so have you, and they're kind of spreading or showing the public the new designs for next year or the next season. And then you have the buyers, and the buyers are the ones that are buying the clothes that are going to be in the stores in the next 6 months. So for me, it was really about making it easier for the buyer and trying to get in front of the buyers. And that meant go to Paris, find a showroom. Ultimately, we created our own showroom. We just like rented Airbnbs and we started to like do showrooms ourselves because we just figured that was like easier for us.
Smart.
But yeah, I think ultimately it's like it's a mix because you need the editors to get the name out there. But at the same time, you don't. Like, you can get your name out there through like social media and what so have you. PR, yeah. Just ultimately having good product can like go so far. But yeah, so for us, it was really about going to Paris and just it was like meeting with store after store. And the first couple of years, it's like nothing really happens, to be honest. It's just like they come, they look, they're like, oh, this is cool. And then you get the card and then you email them and they're like, some of them reply, some of them don't. Some of them are like, yeah, maybe next season. We're just going to, and a lot of stores, like, you have to think about it's an investment. So they usually want to like wait a couple of seasons, watch you grow, just make sure like you don't like fall off or like start doing something completely different. Like, they want to see that you're also committed to your brand and your brand vision.
And like recruiting you, man. It's like sports, with keeping tabs.
Exactly. And then they buy into the brand. So it's like,
a lot of times they need proof of concept.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What I see happen a lot of times with fashion brands is that, especially big retailers, is that they'll wait for you to get into a boutique. And once you're in the boutique, they'll eye how the boutique does with your line. And if the boutique does well, then they're, we have proof of concept here. Then they'll have that big buy and really have that mass market move because they believe that there's proof of concept, And one thing that I guess that's our audience members that are trying to be fashion designers could keep in mind is proving proof of concept.
Exactly. Product.
Yeah, 100%, most definitely. So working towards wrapping up, man. Is there anything that you think we missed that you'd like to speak on?
No, to be honest, like, I feel like we talked, obviously you guys are like a more business, like hustle, kind of like podcast. I feel like we talked about all the business aspects, in ways like, go ahead. Yeah. In ways this is going to be like more interesting to the fashion designer or the entrepreneur. But then there's, I tried to sprinkle in like the personal bits to make it more general.
Yeah.
Relatable.
Yeah, relatable. So, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like I've been rambling, so it's like I covered everything.
All right. So I have two questions for you, man. One a little bit in the personal, another one in the more business.
Yeah.
So I think the phrase you said was post-gender future.
Yeah.
Right. You want to break that saying down because I feel that was a statement that was very intentional. So I guess. So the term post would mean that like it's after, right? So
We at the time things were very like gendered. It was very specific. It was male, female, masculine, feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Suits, females wore, women wore,
Mm-hmm.
dresses and corsets and whatever skirts, right?
Got you. Yeah.
So for us, we wanted to propose a future that was beyond that. It was more about just the pieces and less about what the if the guy or the girl was wearing something that was like traditionally made for them or what traditionally perceived as men's wear or women's wear. So taking the gender out of it, you're left with the clothes. So and I think and that's like now we're in a stage of the brand where it's uniform. It's still like genderless, but I think we're in a world where like we're beyond that now, so we don't have to like be flying a flag about like post gender, non whatever, like, and also like the sensibilities of me being authentic to being like I'm a straight black man, and I don't also want to be like pushing. I don't want to say like pushing a narrative that I can't relate to, but it's for me being authentic and being like, hey, this is what I think would be like a solution for things that are going on. But at the same time, like I don't want to be like in a way like mansplaining. So as the brand evolved, we kind of like put less of the focus on like gender and all that stuff. But that idea and energy is still seen in the collection till this day. It's just subtle and it's not like in your face. Like we don't have it on the back of t-shirts anymore. If you know what I'm saying.
Got you. So that's one thing that I feel like there's only a few of us in there that we can really talk to about that. What's your experience been as a straight black male in the fashion industry?
To be honest, I don't know if it's like a thing now where it's like that, like I'd say I wouldn't say it's that uncommon at the moment. Like obviously you have people like Virgil. Before Virgil, there was like obviously the Oswald Botangs of the world. Fast forward to now, we have people like Samuel Ross, Claire Moss, Shane Oliver. Like there's just so many black designers. Telfar, like it's crazy now. Like
we definitely should take this time to actually shout out some black male designers. Sia Collective. Atelier New Regime.
Yeah, Kwoku Gilded. Shout out to them. Fire.
Shout out to them. Lavati brand. That's Davison Frere. You know what I'm saying? Who makes suits for Diddy and Jay-Z.
ADM Asterix. My homie Nico.
Okay.
Yeah, Nico. I'm trying to think of any other local.
All Black. A Toronto brand.
Yeah. So
designs for Tory Lanez.
Okay.
I'm wearing level 13. That was Antonio Brown in Atlanta. He's like I think a counselor in Atlanta now. Crazy story though. They got sued by Louis Vuitton, bro. Yeah, I think like 2 years ago or something like that.
Man.
It's insane. Also, Murder Bravado. They're sick.
Murder Bravado. Yep.
Murder Bravado's fire. So honestly, make sure.
There's a lot of black designers now. So I don't feel like it's a thing now. But yeah, I feel like when you're in Europe, you feel the energy sometimes. Like it's off. And in a way, I feel like in Europe sometimes. Even black people are like kind of like brainwashed to be like racist in ways. So like the person at the door will give you a hard time because you're different. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's weird. Like it's hard to explain, but like, it's like, I don't know if it's like based on the person they're working for or whatever, but it's like, you'll go to an event or you'll go to like a show or you'll go
like
to
class type of thing.
And then it's like the security guard at the front is like, he's like African or whatever, but he's like giving you a hard time at the door, which is always like weird to me because I'm like,
I know what you mean, man. It's hard to
What he's
explain.
saying, but
Yeah.
but in a way, it's like they've been like, I don't want to say like trained, but it's like they've, in a way, if it's like, if I didn't like, I don't want to say like if I wasn't black, but I've seen it where it's like, I'll be going to like, I remember one time I was like going to a show, it was like a really big show, and like I got to the place. We were in Paris. Gave him my name, and they have like an iPad or a phone where it's like all the names are on it. So put up the name. Okay, cool, boom, you're good to go. And I walk through the first set of doors. And about to go up the stairs, and like a security guard like just like runs to me, and he was just like, I don't know what he said, but he was basically asking if I had like an invite. But I was just like, yo, like I'm just like, yo, go, like I'm like,
Go talk to him.
yeah, I just kind of like blew him off, like go talk to him, like I'm obviously in season, right? But yeah, it's like you can't let that get to you. And then yeah, like obviously you get hit on, like that comes with the industry, like you get hit on by guys and girls, but it's all a compliment, it's just like so I don't know, it's like
It comes with the territory.
Comes with the territory, but hey,
Yeah.
I think I don't know, it comes with the territory, and it's like I'm secure with who I am, and I know who I am, and like I said, I take it all as a compliment, like
Word. Yeah.
Is what it is. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like we're past the stage where black designers are like stifled. And, things are working against them. I feel like with the Virgils and the people in the industry has definitely made it easy and like normalized the I don't say like acceptance, but just kind of it's made it.
It's proof.
Yeah, it's made it easier for not only people to relate and understand to what we're doing, where before it was just like, oh yeah, they do streetwear. And so yeah, I don't know. It is what it is, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a lot of negative things about being in the fashion industry as a black man. Like it's, if anything, I try to use that to my advantage, like because I know I stand out, I know I'm different, so I try to use that as more of like a benefit than like a crutch,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah, no worries.
So what's next? What's next for Spencer Badu?
Man, a lot. So a lot of planning right now. So a lot of like strategy. We're really just trying to like I said before, just trying to like strip things back, just really focus and hone in on like, the product, like our hero product that like does well, and the product that people gravitate to us for. Also with like, obviously trying to propose different things and new things, but we're really trying to focus on like the strong points of the business, not only like on a product level, but in terms of the way we communicate, how we communicate, aesthetically, visually, and trying to like really double down on that and really like build a more of a connection with, the people that are buying the clothes and buying into the brand. And that's why I'm starting to do things like this, because it's like for the longest time I would just let other entities and other people like speak for the brand, where I feel like now it's apparent that like people really value and need direct, relationship with the companies that they're buying into.
Access.
And what's up, man? Shout out to they're doing their jobs.
How you're saving, man.
They're doing their jobs, So yeah, I think for us, that's really what it's about. Like we're definitely working. Once I'm finished the mask, like we're gonna kind of get back into like making clothes. Ultimately, it's about just trying to like figure out what we do well, and then kind of like stick to our guns. So kind of things get back to normal, and then we'll obviously level up. So
yeah, man.
We actually haven't even talked about your clothes too tough. So I just wanted to say, I really love
website, Instagram. Check it out. Yeah.
I really love the pants that you've made, like the pants with like the white detailing.
Yeah,
absolutely fire. And the minimal hoodie with like the ring, like emblem, fire as well.
Thank you, man.
You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to say that while we're on camera. But yeah, working towards wrapping up, man. Where can people find you? And
so my personal Instagram is _BVDU. Brand page is Spencer Badu on Facebook, Instagram, I don't think there's any other platform. But yeah, so also just the website. So our online store has all the information from the product, about the brand, where you can get the brand internationally if you're not in Canada. So yeah, SpencerBadu.com, Spencer Badu on Instagram, Spencer Badu everywhere.
Man, we should just type in Spencer Badu, like it just comes up. You can't miss.
Yeah, luckily people don't have my name, so I'm
that SEO
lucky.
down.
Exactly, I'm lucky on that. And shout out to my dad.
Yeah, man. So, yo, Spence, man, thanks for coming on, eh? This was a pleasure.
Man, I'm excited to share this with the world.
Keep hustling, man. This is Ono Sinde.
This is Alexander.
And we out, man.
Peace.